So Dror is going to present IPython AutoImport. It's a package that intervenes when you forget to import. I also saw that you contributed to this package, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I was just looking at your GitHub. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the talk. So go ahead.
I'm going to set the
Okay.
clock. All right. All right, so I'm going to talk about answer IPython AutoImport, a Python package by Antony Lee. So here's a line, len requests get. This is the actual GitHub link for the package. So GitHub answer IPython AutoImport. And this was the first thing that I ran in a notebook or an IPython shell. So you can see here one, and I did not import requests myself. And boom, it just auto-imported requests. And this is the actual number of bytes that was returned from this link. So I did not import, it auto-imported for myself. Installing instructions are at the GitHub, and I don't think they're very interesting. Instead, I want to show you in 4 minutes how this actually works in brief. All right, so how does it work? We're going to do 4 steps. We're going to look at IPython itself, the thing we run inside Python, like in Jupyter or otherwise. We're going to look at CPython, the general idea of the auto import, and a bit about IPython history. Right, first, how does IPython actually run your code? So if you're in Jupyter or if you typed IPython enter, every time you run a piece of code, it actually goes to line 3469 in this file, IPython core interactive shell. It's exec, code obj, user global namespace, user namespace. The middle one is the globals, and the last one is the locals. Self is an instance or a subclass of the interactive shell class defined in this file. And the code obj, this is a compiled object of the code that we entered in the REPL or in the Jupyter itself. So let's look at one in this session. I wrote get IPython. This will work in any IPython thing like Jupyter or otherwise. It's a ZMQ interactive shell. I don't know what that is. And then we look at the globals that I have here. It's a normal dictionary. But then we look at the user NS, that's the locals that gets passed around. It's an IPython AutoImport, auto-importer map. Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's look at the actual line that we ran, len requests.get. We're going to call the this on it. This is a disassembly of this line. So this line gets transformed into bytecode in CPython, and then it's run in the virtual machine. This isn't true for all Pythons, so auto-import only works in CPython. Anyway, so if you're not familiar with disassembly and bytecode, you can look it up online. But in essence, this line gets turned into what's written here. There's a load name on len, because it's a symbol here, and there's a load name on requests. And what the interesting part of auto import is to make the load name requests work even if requests wasn't actually imported yet. So this is the load name opcode in CPython. Let's actually look at the C code for that. So in the CPython project, everything here is on GitHub. You can just go and look it up. In the C-eval pick C file, there's this huge, massive switch statement of every opcode in CPython in the virtual machine, and one of them is load name. And on line 2741 is the block code for load name. You can see it goes get item. It tries to get like the name of the thing you're looking for. So name is going to be requests. Locals is the locals, what we passed into the exec. So this is going to be our AutoPython importer. Mapper thing. And then there's a few if else's that don't matter for us. And then there's it's simply a py object get item. So this is actually the C code that runs your Python code. It's just a get item on the locals object. So this brings us to the general idea of AutoPython AutoImport. We just need to override the get item function of the locals object that we pass to exec. So here are 2 lines in the project, IPython AutoImport. we just put into the user NS, we take the IPython object and we override the user NS object with our auto importer map. We also override the completer for interesting reasons. Let's not get into it. So here is where we override with our own object. And here is what this object looks like, auto importer map. It inherits from dict. We still want it to be a dict-like thing, a dictionary, but we implement our own get item so that if the name that we're looking for, like requests, doesn't exist yet, instead of throwing a key error, which is what you would normally get when you ask for something that doesn't exist yet, actually you see a name error, but that's something else. Instead of throwing it or raising it, and after the accept, there's code here that decides how to import it immediately instead. Small note, AutoImport actually has to do a few more things to make everything work. When the performance is important and other things, you can look on the GitHub. There's an explanation there. Last part, the IPython history. How does it know what to import? So if you're using IPython regularly, you can do IPython profile create at some point, and from then on, your input history is always saved in a SQLite file. This is where it was stored on my computer when I was preparing for the talk. And there is a table there called history. And I just did pandas read SQL. And you can see that I haven't actually imported neither PD nor anything else, not SQLite. And of course, I get the auto import. And you can already see that in the history, the actual line that's written there is db PD read SQL. So the line in the history, the last line, is already the line that was just evaluated. So how does IPython auto import know that PD should mean pandas? Well, this is a line that I've written before. I've once written import pandas as PD. And then when auto import starts, it scans this history file and it sees that I've written import pandas as PD, so that when I say PD, it just goes, oh, you mean pandas? It quickly runs the import and then continues to run the rest of my code. So the auto import and the line just work. Thanks and happy auto importing. That's the link.
Question.
That guy.
Yeah.
How do you enable this in IPython?
So the install instructions, you have to pip install the GitHub, and then you enter in your IPython configuration line.
Okay. And how does this impact the reproducibility of the notebook? Right. So if somebody is not using this module, but you send this person the notebook, can something go wrong? I mean, PD may not mean something to everyone.
Right. So this is not the best thing for reproducibility.
Right.
The module has a magic to list all the auto imports that you've done in a session, so that once you're done kind of with your notebook, you can say, hey, show me all the auto imports in one block, and then you can copy paste and put them all in that first cell like we usually do. So, and that was actually my contribution to the project. Cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Dror. I have.
Did you anytime make a mistake and import wrong package, so that the auto import somehow made the wrong choice? Did it happen to you anytime?
Yes. So the current default, the way the package works is that if you've imported pandas as PD and later, let's say, NumPy as PD, then it says, I don't know which one you want, but you can do, there's a magic that you can do, magic auto import clear, and then from then on, clear for the symbol PD, and then the next time you import PD, that will be the default from then on. And this is also another contribution I made to the package. So yeah, so you can deal with that.
That's
basically to clear the history.
So it just clears symbol. But yeah.
Yeah, the dictionary, yeah.
Is it just for quickly experimenting? Personally, I'm a data scientist, so most of the day I'm just experimenting with data. So quickly experimenting is like most of my work. But yeah, I guess so. And the C eval pick a C, I practiced that before.